Flint West reporting. The Castle and the Ledger, BlackRock's break from the Citadel of Obfuscation. You ever notice how every few years some corner of the financial world blows up and everyone acts surprised? Like it's some mystery how the same spark keeps lighting the same fire. Regional banks, shadow lenders, private credit funds, all melting down in slow motion. Zions, Western Alliance, First Brands, Tricolor, dead bodies washing ashore after years of credit rot. And every time we're told it's an isolated incident. Jamie Dimon goes on TV saying there's never just one cockroach. He's right, there's never just one. But he forgets to mention his kitchen's full of them too. See, the system isn't broken. It's built this way. A house of hidden ledgers. A citadel of obfuscation where assets get pledged, repledged, then ghosted into spreadsheets no one can trace. That's how we ended up with commercial real estate loans sitting on bank balance sheets like unexploded bombs, office towers half empty, collateral marked at full value, vacancy rates near 20% nationwide. In some downtowns, 24, 40-year highs. Regional banks are the top lenders to this mess. They're sitting on loans no one wants, to buildings no one needs, backed by tenants who aren't coming back. Then the Fed hiked rates at the fastest clip in modern history, and those same banks' safe assets, U.S. government bonds, started bleeding value. Look at the TLT, once a $170 darling, now scraping the 90s. That's not volatility, that's a slow-motion rug pull. So the Fed panics, creates the BTFP, the Bank Term Funding Program, a lifeline for banks drowning in their own risk-free assets. Silicon Valley Bank had already gone under. Treasuries and mortgage-backed securities had become ticking liabilities. The Fed poured water on the fire, but the walls were already cracking. And then came the lawsuits. Western Alliance suing Cantor Group LLC for alleged loan fraud, roughly a $100 million hole. Zion suing Cantor 2 and Fool for another $60 million. Turns out the Cantor Group wasn't even Cantor Fitzgerald, just a name borrowed to sound legitimate. The borrower, Andrew Stupin, tied to more than $250 million in troubled loans, denying wrongdoing through counsel. This isn't rumor. It's filings. It's real. Another chapter in the same old story. Rehypothecation, falsified collateral, opaque intermediation. The kind of game that only works when the lights are off. And here's where it gets poetic. The hero of this story, the unlikely one, is BlackRock. Yeah, that BlackRock. The world's largest asset manager. TradFi royalty. The same institution that once built its empire on the darkness, on private data, model opacity, and custodial scale, is now championing tokenization. Larry Fink's talking about the next generation of markets, assets that live on transparent, traceable ledgers. Every bond, every mortgage, every share with a digital fingerprint. Imagine regulators seeing in real time if an asset's been double pledged. Imagine collateral chains you can actually audit without a subpoena. That's what tokenization does. It turns balance sheet shadows into daylight. If this had existed in 2007, we might have seen the housing bubble before it burst, the over-leveraged tranches, the phantom MBS layers, all visible. It wouldn't have saved greed from itself, but it would have made lying harder. Now, don't get it twisted. BlackRock isn't doing this out of virtue. They're doing it out of necessity. Even the kings of the old order can smell the rot in their castle walls. Because while they were printing reports and minting risk, the market changed. Information became the new collateral. Transparency became the new alpha. And the public, burned too many times, wants proof, not promises. Tokenization isn't rebellion anymore. It's the new realism, a new kind of accountability baked into code. Once a ledger starts to tell the truth, there's no going back to the dark. And that brings us to our villain, Jamie Dimon, the self-appointed high priest of the hidden ledger. He calls Bitcoin a fraud, calls crypto a pet rock. Yet JP Morgan builds Onyx, their own private blockchain, in secret. They mock decentralization while mimicking it behind closed doors. That's not skepticism. That's fear of displacement. Dimon and his familiars, the American Bankers Association, the compliance industrial complex, they thrive on friction. Every extra form, every delay, every regulation that keeps you from seeing how the system works, that's their moat. Their profit is your confusion. Their power is your dependency. They don't want transparent finance. They want controlled opacity, a fog thick enough to charge rent for navigation. Tokenization cuts through that fog like sunlight, and that's why they're fighting it tooth and nail. But here's the twist that history loves. Every empire that resisted transparency eventually drowned in its own secrecy. The Citadel of Obfuscation is no different. When truth becomes technology, the walls that hide lies become liabilities. The castle won't fall overnight, not with this many vested interests guarding the gate. But its foundation's already crumbling. Because for the first time, even the giants inside, BlackRock, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton, they've stopped defending the walls and started digitizing the escape plan. So when the next meltdown comes, and it will, don't ask how it happened. Ask why it was allowed to stay invisible for so long. Because the answer is the same as it's always been. The keepers of the old ledger never wanted you to see it. But now, the ledger can see itself. And that changes everything. The castle and the ledger isn't just a story about banks and blockchains. It's a story about light and shadow, about truth finding its way through the cracks in the marble halls of finance. For the first time, the hero isn't a person, it's a protocol. And this time, the ledger never lies. Flint West signing off.